Greetings, salutations, I am Skojo Insta360. I literally just got back from running the One R through a blizzard. Not joking, 30-mile-an-hour winds, blowing snow so bad that all I could do was grab the footage that I could. Also shot some comparison footage with the One X, video forthcoming. What I want to do today is just do a really quick breakdown of the recording interface on the camera. So basically all the things that you can select on the camera when the screen is activated. Just recording interface, let's break it down. First of all, I think the build of this thing is actually pretty impressive. Now, I had a little struggle trying to get the screen to go, but then I realized if you just hit the power button, it'll eventually come up. And what's nice is it has full 360 scrolling ability on the screen. Now this is pretty big because the One X has a horrible display. In fact, at the blizzard I was just at, part of the reason I had to come home was because I was trying to get the One X. I couldn't read the display while I was outside, so much so that I just couldn't even like take a guesstimate as to what setting I was on. So the display on this thing is a miracle. Now if you tap in the lower right, that'll bring up your frame rates. There's 5.7K 30. Now there is no 24 or 25 at this time. As you can see, I struggled a little bit because when you try to swipe, it almost swipes too fast, too far, but eventually you do get into your 4K settings. That's at 30 frames per second and your 50 frames per second, just like the One X, and of course the 3K 100 frames per second. Now you heard right, they do not have new frame rates on the One R. It's just the 40, 30 frames per second, 40, 50 frames per second, 300, 100 frames per second, and actually I guess they'd be short one because they don't have 24 or 25 frames per second in the One R at this point. Is it a big deal? Not really. If you touch in the lower left, that'll bring up your selections for video and for photo. As you can see, I'm in video now. You got your standard video, you got HDR, you've got time-lapse and bullet time. All these things we had before, but it's just great to see them on a screen that you can actually use. Click in the bottom portion and you've got some presets, one that's already set to star lapse, which is a new setting, which is awesome, and one that you can customize. Here's your photo modes like burst, HDR, you've got interval and your night setting, which I don't actually know what the night setting is just yet. My assumption is it has something to do with being lower light and all that, but I'm very excited to have some low light capabilities with this camera. Now if you swipe across, that brings up a lot of your custom settings. Some of these you probably won't need to do unless you're really trying to get a little higher end, like your white balance, and you've got your shutter speeds and ISOs, things like that. So these are all things that are great. I mean, having a white balance setting on this camera, as you can see, the higher you go in temperature, the warmer it looks, and this comes in really handy on some of those weirdly colored days. And then of course ISO has more to do with how much light you're bringing in. If you're in a low light situation, you can increase the ISO, but it does increase the noise that the video will pick up. Shutter speed, of course, this was set to 130, which you generally want your shutter speed to be twice what your frame rate is. So of course I switched it to 1/60th, but there's a lot of different reasons to use shutter speed. But again, this is a more advanced feature, not something you have to worry about. For the most part, you probably have it on auto. So that's kind of the basics of what you get in here. The one thing that's kind of weird I'm still trying to get figured out is that I don't know how to format the SD card yet. I've been swiping around trying to find these things, and for some reason I'm not finding it yet. So overall, I give the screen, let's give it a B+, because you can see it, you can scroll it and all that stuff. It is a little bit small in this square, and it does tend to get a little bit aggressive. It like spins past things, but the fact that it exists and that it's here, and all the selections you can get on the camera are awesome. By the way, did I mention you can actually do voice commands with this thing too? You can tell it to start recording, stop recording, shut down, things like that, which Insta360 did not have up to this point. The GoPro Max had it, and I loved it. So far, at least a B+ for the interface on the camera. All right, well that is it for this short episode. I'm going to do another episode on the interface on the app, so if you see this video now, you might check and see if I've already released that one. That's got some interesting upgrades to it as well. I am Skojo Insta360. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Don't forget to like the video, share the video, and ding, 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 ring the bell on the side because you'll get my full essence. I'm out of here.